Hello and welcome to Conversations. I'm Robin Torres, your host. Today's guest is Cindy Cash, President, CEO of the Kansas City, Kansas Area Chamber of Commerce. Cindy has been with the Kansas City, Kansas Chamber since 1993. She previously served as Vice President of Marketing Administration and Marketing Director. She moved to Kansas in 1988 to be the General Manager of the Indian Springs Shopping Center. She's worked in the retail and shopping center industry for major corporations, regional companies, and mom-and-pop local businesses throughout the eastern United States. Cindy and her husband are also small business owners. She currently serves on the board of the Kansas City, Kansas Downtown Shareholders, Downtown Improvement District, the KU Advancement Board, Kansas City, Kansas Community College Advancement Board, and Kansas City, Kansas Community College's Intercultural Advisory Board. She is also a Village West Rotary Club member. Cindy is a graduate of Leadership Kansas 2008 and Leadership 2000 Class 4. She has a degree in History and Marketing from Eastern Michigan University. Cindy and her husband live in Kansas City, Kansas, and she loves gardening and entertaining their grandchildren. Welcome, Cindy, and thank you for being here with us today.
And thank you, Robin. I really appreciate being here today. We've talked about it for so long.
We have, and I'm glad we finally made it happen. So, Cindy, you're not from Kansas City, Kansas.
No.
But you have landed here. Tell us what made you come here.
Actually, I moved here about 22 years ago. Moved here in the spring, May of 1988. I came here to run Indian Springs Shopping Center.
Okay.
My background had been in retail and shopping centers. I opened and operated retail and shopping centers throughout the eastern part of the country. This is the furthest west I had ever lived, which sounds kind of funny since this is the Midwest. But I came here to do that, enjoyed it, had a great time at Indian Springs with my customers, my walkers, my merchants, and certainly the staff that I worked with there.
We miss Indian Springs.
Yeah, we do. There were a lot of great times there. It was very much a community center, and
really
I
was.
do miss that. But I certainly look forward to the next life for I-70 and 635 and State Avenue, and I believe that's going to come before we know it.
We're going to talk about that later.
Okay.
But let's talk about, you landed at the Chamber, Kansas City, Kansas Chamber of Commerce.
Yes, the original developer got out of that shopping center back in 1992, and the mortgage company had their own company come in to begin a redevelopment of it. And they kept me on for a few months as sort of a consultant to kind of smooth through the transition. And then in January of 1993, I was told my time was done there. And I had been a volunteer with the Chamber and also with the Economic Development organization, now known as Wyandotte Economic Development Council, and they were looking for a marketing director, and it was a contract job, and so I applied for it, and I thought, okay, I can do this until I find another shopping center to run. And 1993 to 2011, that's 18 years ago. So I started on February 1st. In fact, I always like to tell this story, when we're all excited about the Hollywood Casino opening, my very first day at the Chamber was in Topeka, and I didn't even know the way. I had to look it up on a map. And I walked the halls of the legislature trying to find people to lobby to allow us to have casino gaming, because in those days we still had the riverboat.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was a while ago. Wow.
A long time ago.
That's great. Give us a little history of the Chamber.
Well, actually, the Chamber of Commerce, as we know it today, started in 1898. It actually started as the Mercantile Club of Kansas City, Kansas. In fact, right here at the Community College, we did a video when we celebrated our centennial in 1998. And we took a lot of poetic license with the story of how businessmen, notice I did say businessmen,
right,
were sitting in one of the private clubs, where men went to do business after hours, and talked about, we need to do this in our community, we need to do that, and we should organize. And so they formed the Mercantile Club. What I've later found out several years ago, actually, is there was another Kansas City, Kansas Chamber of Commerce prior to 1898, but for some reason it fell apart, and this started again in 1898. We stayed as the Mercantile Club until 1918, and two things happened in 1918. They changed the name to the Kansas City, Kansas Chamber of Commerce, and then also bought the Elks Lodge at 727 Minnesota Avenue, which had suffered a major fire, and the Chamber of Commerce bought it for $75,000 from the Elks. And yes, I still have the original deed when we bought it from the Elks Association, and we have owned that building ever since. The Chamber has been in that building along with a lot of other partners over the years, which I'll talk about in just a second. But the only time we've actually left that building, to the best of my knowledge, is twice. Once during the 1950s, because the Chamber had been involved in the development of the Townhouse Hotel, which was located at 7th and State. And part of the deal is that the Chamber would move its offices for a while to the lower level. And I understand we did a lot of events in the hotel at that point in time. And we leased the Chamber building to an insurance company. And how I found out that, a couple who had worked for the insurance company came back. The wife worked for the general manager on the upper level, and the husband worked in the mailroom on the lower level. And then, as recently as a year ago, we moved out of 727 Minnesota to renovate it totally. Right now it is gutted, and we are finalizing our fundraising for it so that we can begin construction and have a historic building with a modern flair, so that we can continue to promote and grow our community.
Now, you were talking about something a little earlier, the marble.
Yes.
That was downstairs.
Well, that's been the fun part of the renovation. You know, you walk through the building, and since I've been there the longest of anyone, I've been, I thought, in every nook and cranny. Now, in any old building, there are certain areas you really don't want to go into until you do something like a renovation. And as the architect groups that we were talking with and I started touring the building, we went into what was a former men's room on the lower level, because the lower level of the Chamber had been a banquet hall originally, and then the Chamber had rented it out during the 40s and the 50s to a lady by the name of Mary Ryan. She actually ran a restaurant out of the lower level of the Chamber because it opened up onto what is now an alleyway, but at that point in time it was accessible, and you can still see the openings in the walls where they were bricked over.
Wow.
So there was a men's room down there that had long ago been shut down. Well, when we went in there with flashlights and really started looking at it, one of the walls was full of marble. So we talked with the architects and the construction company, and they have successfully popped that marble off the wall, and we will be reusing it in the building.
Wow.
So I'm really excited about that.
That sounds good. And I know you guys will be happy when that project finally gets started.
Yes, yes. You always think it's going to take only this much time, and you find out, especially with older buildings, they do take a little bit longer than you thought.
Now, one question before we go to break. When you guys get that totally renovated, will we be able to come in and take a tour?
Oh, certainly.
Okay.
And actually, we hope to have a big party because, again, we're right in the middle of the 700 block.
Okay.
So we're excited about it.
Okay, we're going to take a break, and I'll come back with some more questions for Cindy Cash, and we'll be right back.